Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down round the campfire with me and my good friend AJ Winters. What up?
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I feel like a little bit of a drowned rat. I just got out of the shower, but
More like a mermaid, more like
Thank you,
a siren or something. There's more beautiful ways of being a drowned rat.
yes. Unless the accurate presentation of Ariel when she emerges from that rock was real.
Yeah.
Wet hair everywhere.
Yeah. So we're set up Daisy Game. How's it going? How's it going, bud?
Hi, friend.
So let's set up this short rest. We're here for a short rest. So what are we doing that needs a short rest?
Does that mean we get to nap? Because both of us need a nap.
We both need. Yeah, we're just actually going to do a 2-hour nap. It's a sleeping stream.
Welcome to the stream. We're gonna have an actual short rest.
Yeah, Saturday sleeps. That's what I'll call it. New stream idea. Jeez, don't tempt me. Oh boy. So we're gonna have a short rest. What are we on a quest? Are we on are we taking on the king or like an evil king? What are we doing that needs a short rest? What's the situation?
I feel like, this is a little flashback to a game that we've played together, but I feel like you and I would definitely be the heist type. So I feel like this is the short rest before we hit the ground running for the next thing.
So we're ready to break in. We've gotten through the first layer of defenses, and we have to wait for a particular time for the security guards to do their shift or something. And we're like, well, better squeeze in a short rest then. Cool. So we're heisting. So what do we? I assume that means we're not setting up a campfire or anything.
No, I think we're disguised as homeless people.
Ooh, cool! I like it. So
we're on the side of the town edge, pretending.
Yeah, we're just kind of watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Yeah. And what are we drinking on this short rest?
I'm drinking tea.
You're drinking tea?
I'm drinking tea. Decaf tea.
IRL, I'm drinking water as usual. But should we, as homeless people, are we trying to are we looking winos? Are we going out of the brown paper bags?
So here's the sly thing. I think we've worked out. We've got water. to stay hydrated, but we've camouflaged the bag that it's in to smell and look like alcohol.
Smell and look like. So we've got a soft leather water skin sort of thing, and then on the outside of we've just dunked it in wine,
in whiskey.
so it's soaked it up and it smells like it, but the inside is actually just water, and we're just kind of passing it along. So you've got to stay hydrated when you're on a heist. Everybody knows that. And what are we eating on this short rest?
Ooh, we got to look homeless. So nothing.
Not a lot. Just nothing.
Not a
just
lot.
maybe we're
scraps.
Maybe we do have a very small campfire, embers, and we've got a rat on a skewer.
Yeah, a rat on a skewer. Yeah, that sounds like us.
Yeah. So we're eating a rat on a skewer.
Actual drowned rat.
An actual drowned rat. It all comes back around, full circle. There you go. We've got a skewered rat. But, sly prestidigitation to make it taste real good.
Yeah.
Still got to dine well, of course.
We're just pretending we're homeless. We don't need to eat an actual drowned rat. Excellent.
There you go. We're set up for our short rest. So I like to start with the names, the guests' names. So AJ Winters. That's obviously, it's pretty easy to see the leap between where you decided to come up with the Winter's Tales from. But is there anything extra in that we should know about? Why Winter's Tales and not Winter's Tales with an apostrophe? Or Winter's Tales?
Because you could never put an apostrophe in any socials or a website.
Smart.
So I was let's just avoid
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also because it's my name, so it's like saying AJ Tales.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If it would be Winter's Tales, then it would be like Hartley Tales or Hartley's Tales.
Hartley's Tales, yeah.
Yeah, Hartley's Tales. So Hartley Tales
which still
makes
works.
Sense. Yeah,
but it sounds better.
That's something I've always kind of been a little bit miffed at. I've always been fine with my name, but it doesn't Hartley doesn't mean anything. People with names that mean stuff, people with names that are also words, get to use them in puns.
I chose my name, so I changed my name when I was 18.
Oh, right. Yeah. So AJ Winters is your legal name, but it's your legal name since you changed it at 18.
Since I changed it, yeah.
Cool. So why did you? So then we can ask you about AJ Winters. Why did you pick AJ Winters?
So I was doing a sci-fi production when I was in my last year of university, and this is a really weird story. So I wanted to start a production company, and so I was like, "What do I want to call it?" And,
as you do at 18, you just like,
as you do
I'm
at 18
start
years old.
a production company.
I'm going to start a full production company. And so I had the business name around that time, and it was the same time that I was playing around with what I wanted to be called, because I knew that for my career I wanted to go into writing, producing, acting, something along those lines, where you needed a name that was easy to spell and easy to write.
Yeah.
And my previous last name was not. It was Irish. It was a little difficult, and
with all
every
of the
time
vowels
on the
and
phone,
yeah.
And because my family's German, people assumed, because it sounds...
Your family's German, but you had an Irish family name.
Yeah, so half.
Okay.
German, English, German, British family. And because it's got
Still not hearing the Irish in there. German, British is not Irish.
British into Irish descendant name-wise.
I see.
Which, no, you know what, Rob? We'll go into my full family lineage.
Yeah, I want an entire family tree,
yeah,
please.
so the German goes all the way up to Viking, and the English goes up through Irish to that. Just so you know.
There you go. Which, I mean, both of which kind of explain why you're white, as white as can be. As white as I am from Northern England. You're like Irish Viking.
This is not just because I don't go outside ever.
So you had an Irish name.
I dye my hair red so people don't question how pale I am.
Yeah. I'm actually dark black hair.
Full Snow White. Full Snow White.
Yeah. Bright red lips. So you were Irish named, and were like, from a marketing perspective, this is never going to work.
Yes,
so
and also because it was just so frustrating every time you're on the phone and someone's like, "Oh, how do you spell that?" And you're
right.
Like, oh.
So it wasn't just like you wanted a brand, because you can't just make a brand name. You'd have to legally change your name in order to make it.
Yeah, so, I could have just had a screen name.
I didn't realize that at the time.
I was 18. I was quite naive. Did the whole shebang.
Right.
No, I knew that I wanted to change it because I wanted my university degree to have my new name. So I changed it that year in my final year of uni, so that when I got my bachelor, that it would be in Winters, which was pretty cool.
Winters. That's cool. Yeah. But then why did you pick Winters? What was...
I love winter. I very much associate it with... I was born in England about a week out from Christmas in like snow and cold. I adore like skiing and ice skating and winter things.
Nice. Which part of England were you born?
I was born in. Wait, I don't know if I want to go into specific details.
I'm not asking you for the street address. I was asking for like a county. I'm
wondering like, what's your family? You're trying to ask me a family name.
And what's your
where were you born?
I'm from England, so I was interested to know: are you a southerner or a northerner? Is basically what I was asking.
My family's from Kent.
Ah, you're a southerner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't ever live in England.
Yeah, what's the name of your first pet? Talira says.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Talira. I'll get it. For the next 2 hours, I'll just pepper in all questions about it. What's your, if you had a favorite, say, eight digit number or something, what would that be?
Does anyone have you probably have a favorite 8-digit number. I don't think I have one.
Turn this into a math stream. So born in England, and moved to Australia. Sorry,
moved to New Zealand. I actually did live in New Zealand for a little bit as well. So I moved with my family. We lived in a few different countries early on, including like Holland and Germany.
Damn, moved around.
And then I moved to Australia when I was.
They're spies. That's usually the only explanation.
Yeah, that's why my name's different.
Yeah.
I'm a spy, but then I decided as a spy and a secret identity that I'll put my whole entire career on the internet.
That I will make a career of being... It's called hiding in plain sight?
Yeah. No, it's a full tactic.
When did you finally end up in Australia?
I was about 5 or 6.
Right, so you spent most of your life there.
Most of my life here. I spent a year or 2 in Germany after high school. I moved to New Zealand for a year, mid-uni because my parents moved over there.
Whereabouts in New Zealand were you? Auckland?
Auckland. No. Not Auckland.
You're here for a year.
I've been to Auckland. I was here for a year. Nelson.
Oh, Nelson. Cool.
Top of the bottom
South
island. Yeah.
Top of the bottom island. I don't know a lot about Nelson. I've visited Nelson, but there's not.
It's
a lot.
beautiful area.
It's not
stuck in the 80s.
Yeah,
the whole town.
I've heard that actually.
Stuck in the 80s, but the mountains, the hiking, the canoeing, everything is stunning there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So was Winters just like that was the name you wanted right from the beginning because you loved winter, or did you have like a notebook full of options?
Notebook full of options. No, actually, the pen name that I used to go by when I was a teenager was always last name Winters, but it was the first name was Kiki, which I'm glad I did not keep. So that was Kiki.
Kiki Winters.
Kiki Winters was the like teen name.
Do you remember where Kiki came from?
No, I think it was just like a fantasy.
A book or something, or?
Yeah, it was like a fantasy name that I had for a character, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And Kiki Winters sounds catchy.
Yeah.
Again, glad I didn't keep that. And then my friend started calling me AJ as an acronym for my first name, and then I went by that instead.
Cool. So then you changed it to AJ Winters and made the most of that in your marketing now. Winter's Tales.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was saying I've always kind of thought it was a useful opportunity to utilize when your name is actually a word, and you can make all kinds of puns and branding and things from it.
Yeah, definitely.
There's not much I can do with Hartley.
It's not spelt like a heart.
Not spelt like a
heart.
You
definitely still could.
There's heart thing. Heart. Yeah, sure. But my name's not Hart. It's Hartley, and you can't really do Hartley because heart isn't a verb. So you can't really Hartley something as an adverb.
I'm sure you could.
I jumped.
My marketing brains switched on just then.
Heartily is almost heartily.
Yeah, you could do
make
things
a pun
heartily.
around heartily.
Just add an I into your last name, and then it's
I'll legally change to have an I in it. Screw up all the branding that I've set up in the last 2 years. So on the still on the branding talk, what's with the logo? How did that come about? It's a pretty gorgeous design.
Thank you very much. I wanted to have something that worked as both a logo and a wax seal.
Right.
Yeah, so I worked with a designer to make a rune, a spell rune, that had a snowflake at the center with astrological things in it as well, like moons and stars, because that's basically very runic.
Mm-hmm.
And then the starry background was the branding of choice, because I always imagined like telling tales under the starry sky around a campfire kind of vibe, and I just went with that branding choice and lent in hard.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I don't know why. I don't know what. I'm trying to grow it larger so that people can see it. But Streamlabs is doing something weird where if I'm
growing, as you go too big.
Yeah, as soon as I go too big, it goes off screen. Well, oh well. People can screenshot and zoom in or see it on your stuff. People can go and find it elsewhere. It's a lot of detail to it. It's a cool logo.
Yeah.
So you wanted astrological signs, a snowflake because of the winters, obviously.
I guess I don't mean astrological. I mean more celestial.
Astronomical signs. Because not zodiac signs, right?
No, not zodiac signs. It's just star and night
celestial
related.
Signs. Yeah. Celestial symbols. Snowflake for the winter. Is there a candle in there that I'm seeing? Oh no, that's the top point of the.
No, that's the point of the
snowflake. The snowflake.
Yeah. There's little tiny little stars in between each of the like pointy triangle bits, and I think there's 6 of those surrounding the snowflake, which was relevant, and I've forgotten why. My designer was like, "Oh, there's 6 little stars." And
you're like, "Oh yeah," totally because of reasons, obviously.
Yeah, because there's something.
Cool. So you got this design because you knew you were going to be making Winter's Tales as your own thing, your own production company. But before that, obviously, you were into D&D much before that. So going back way before you had the Winter's Tales and the logo and everything, how did you even get into D&D in the first place?
This is a very funny story. So my family and I went to New York uh, when I was like 16.
That is a pretty funny story.
Yeah. So
Wait.
this is yeah.
I think I
End of
jumped the gun.
punchline. We went with my dad's work because he was doing something over there. So my mom and I tagged along for the trip.
So
and
what
we were like,
job
"Yeah,
does
we'll
your dad
definitely-"
do for a living? Just add it to the list of things that I know about.
He's a helicopter pilot.
Legitimately?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's dope. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's something that'll set you apart from other kids. Has he always been a helicopter pilot? Like, you're able to talk about that when you were a kid? Because man, that'd set you apart on the playground, wouldn't it? What's your dad do? He's an accountant. What's your dad do? I don't know. He works in some sort of business. He's a businessman.
He's a businessman. No, my dad was always a helicopter pilot. I had a sneaking suspicion he was a spy when I was younger, but that was because he wore FIFO. And I was like,
because you've lived in 17 different countries and changed names. It's coming together. There's a lot of evidence that your dad works for some sort of shady organization.
I'm the daughter of a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That'd be really cool.
So is he like a helicopter chauffeur, like he does helicopter flights, or does he work for like a search and rescue, or like what's his?
Like a combo of those things. So he works. Right. He's worked for a bunch of different companies, which I won't name. Yeah. But he does like taking people out to the mines, or search and rescue, or hurricane watches, things like that.
Cool stuff.
That's why we've been to so many countries, because you need a helicopter pilot almost everywhere. So.
That's exciting. Anyway, I interrupted your story. So you were in New York.
We were in New York, and my dad's work at the time booked us into a hotel, and we walked in, and we accidentally walked into DexCon 15, which was epic. So the foyer lobby doors opened, and we walked in. There's fauns and satyrs. And elves running around, people with like full cosmetic.
Walked directly through a portal to another
we went
world.
through into the Feywilds, yeah. And
you turn around and there's no door to the foyer. What?
Where are we? Anyway, I basically screamed with glee because I'm a giant and have always been a giant geek and nerd. And very fantasy and sci-fi orientated, so I loved this. Yeah. And my dad internally groaned because he was very confused about this whole situation. But my parents ended up getting me a separate hotel room for my stay, which was really lovely, and bought me a pass for DexCon 15 and went, we're going to go do everything we were planning. You spend the weekend role-playing.
We just looked upon having a holiday from you.
Full babysitter.
Yeah, we just like happened to have
2,000 people in a hotel that could look after our daughter for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I ended up playing D&D for the first time, LARPing for the first time, which was fascinating as a 16-year-old in a fake tavern, slamming drinks down, being like, where is this person? For full role play, and people like, ooh,
I don't
who
doubt
are you? Yeah, that's me. Always in character, always like going a bit too far with things.
So what since I was 16. What was your interest in sci-fi and fantasy before that? Just through books and movies and things?
Yeah, books and movies. I was an avid reader as a teen, but not like actual like adult books. I did a lot of fantasy teen dramas when I was 12 and 13. But I started writing, so that's my predominant career, or has been for majority of my existence. I started writing books when I was like 8, bad ones, and then was convinced I was going to be a novelist during my teen years. So that was my love of sci-fi and fantasy, and big Star Wars nerd.
You got published novels?
No, I wish.
Never tried to self-publish or anything?
No, what was really interesting is I kept on trying to make visual mediums, and I should have clued in that was what I actually wanted to do. But I would write novels during all my classes because I would never really pay attention in class. And I have stacks and stacks, I still have them, of lined paper full of like notes and chapters and things like that I've just got that I will eventually type out and turn into something, I'm sure. And then that all kind of influenced all the stuff I'm doing now. So I went to theatre school. I did a double major in creative writing and performance, and got into like, well, not got into, I was already doing acting, but went down the theater route and the creative writing pursuit, and then jumped into the film industry uh end of uni, and decided that I really liked film and television, and worked for Channel 7 and did a bunch of other stuff. And then
What sort of stuff? What sort of stuff have you done behind the camera? Like,
mostly I don't
aside
do a
from
lot of
writing,
the
obviously.
cinematography stuff, but I've done writing, producing, first AD work, directing, that sort of stuff.
Damn.
Yeah.
Quite heavily involved in a lot of those things. That
Yes.
certainly helps in just the storytelling industry in general.
Yeah, I think that was what really helped when I started my channel and when I did everything, is because I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different career paths.
Yeah.
So I've done producing, I've done first AD work, I've handled a set,
Yeah.
I've done creative writing, I worked in marketing for a couple of years and social media management. I've done editing, like video editing. I do all my own editing and socials and all that jazz as well. So that really helped because I could just do all the things. But it does lead to burnout.
Yeah,
I
I was
will
gonna.
say.
That's literally what I was about to say. I was about to say
Yeah.
it sounds like a perfect recipe for a burnout.
Well, eventually, when this channel and my ideas for Winter's Tales takes off, then I will actually outsource
Yeah.
when I have the funds to do so.
Yeah.
But until that point,
Yeah, why can't we all just be rich enough to to be able to hire other people to
yeah.
take it all on board? That sounds amazing though. That's a hell of a way into it. So so that's the first time you played D&D and LARPing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But obviously that doesn't sound like a good opportunity to start a campaign. So when was the first time you when was the next time you played D&D after that? Were you immediately seeking it out? Let's go.
Yes.
I've got to find
Yes.
somebody else that I can play that with. Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of friends that I had made at this convention that were all based in America, unfortunately, and a lot older than I was, because I was a 16-year-old girl. And although I was offered marriage a few times to get a green card to stay in the US, I went back to finish high school.
Oh, wow.
And ended up trying to convince a lot of my friends to play D&D with me, which didn't really work. I was a bit of an oddball in high school, didn't really have a lot of friends. And so then I picked it back up again at university. So a couple of years later, after my gap year, did a couple of one-shots for people's birthdays and things like that. Tried to start some campaigns, didn't really last long.
Right.
And then continued on. I think there was a major gap, and then COVID hit. And no, actually, I lie. Before COVID, my friend was leaving to go to Canada to work. So in 2018, 2019 or something. And I threw a massive one-shot for his going away party. And everyone loved it, and they wanted to continue on with the story. And
Nice.
He wanted to continue on the story, but he couldn't from his time zone.
Here's your going away party. We're gonna start a campaign without you. That's your going away party.
Pretty much. It was horrible.
But don't worry, we'll tell you all about it so that you really get that.
Yeah,
FOMO.
we'll send you recaps. So we ended up doing a few sessions of that, and that was actually the plot line of the Academy of Xandar, the original plot line, before I worked it for stream. And then when COVID hit, I was doing games for people to keep everyone social. So I was doing it online with a few people.
Right.
And I knew that I wanted to get into that because I love world building and I love D&D. And so I actually ended up reaching out through a couple of female tabletop RPGers who I'd had this meeting with. And I was like, okay, what do we want to see in the space as a female doing tabletop RPGs and DMing? What do we want to see? And one of them happened to be a player on Dag's channel.
Right.
So reached out to Dag and was like, oh, this girl wants to do this stuff. Would you like to meet her? And teed up a little meeting between Dag and I, at which point Dag pulled me into a campaign of his. I then ended up doing the social media for that channel and running 2 seasons of the Academy of Xandar. And then knowing that I wanted to do this the whole time for myself, I accidentally got stuck doing it for other people for a while, and then launched my own channel last year.
I mean, gives you the more experience doing.
It really did,
because you already would have had a lot of relative experience with the film industry and stuff, but you wouldn't have had direct experience with the thing that you wanted to do until doing it for
I started I started doing all the background stuff that wasn't really being done. So I started like producing some of the shows, getting sponsors, like contracts, all of that kind of jazz that you have for like release forms and stuff. I was doing all of that because I brought that over from film industry knowledge into streaming. And with all the upkeep of like producing and social media, I learned so much that it was able to directly translate. And because I had built this little reputation up of being, a female streamer and a DM, it made the transition easier to my own channel, because I only started Twitch in December.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did a 25-day advent calendar Twitch release in December.
Damn.
My YouTube started July last year, so that hasn't even been a year either.
Damn, that's man, you've been hustling. Makes it feel like a lot longer.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Getting on that grind. So unfortunately, one of your first introductions to the world of D&D streaming was Dag.
Yeah.
I mean, it was inevitable being in that very small area of the world. Anyway, you were gonna
No, it was actually lovely. I am a massive fan of Dags. Obviously.
You have to say that, he's in chat.
Yeah, I'm not being bribed. I actually went to lunch with Dag for his birthday. This was like very shortly after, for Dag's birthday, and he ended up buying me on his birthday the like, I was going to say the exotic cover. That's not the right word, but the Icewind Dale, fancy cover of the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden book. And because he was saying, I'd recently done that one there. Yeah.
Fancy cover version.
The fancy cover. It just looked so pretty, and it's very wintry.
Very pretty.
And
I've got a notebook with this cover on it. So
oh, really? Yeah. I love it so much.
Well, I had one. I gave it away as a prize for one of my viewers for my partner.
It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous artwork.
Yeah. So we saw that book in a little D&D shop, and being that my branding was all winter related, and I really wanted to read this book, he gifted it to me, and he said, I hope that you like run this campaign, or you do something with this, because I can genuinely see you making a career out of this. So Dag was the first person to believe that I could actually do everything that I'm doing currently. So
he's good for that, isn't he?
Yeah.
He just wanted to add you to his collection. He's
Probably.
He's actually a silver dragon in disguise, is Dag, and his hoard is people and contacts
and connections.
And he's just like, oh, if I make another one over here, I can get another person into the industry. Oh, Mudcat's in the chat. What up, Mudcat? How's it going? Hoard friends. Yeah, that's what he's hoarding.
Yep.
That's cool. So he was instrumental in getting you into it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to. He was my ticket in.
Yeah.
For sure. It was great.
That's dope. If anybody doesn't know who the hell we're talking about, Dag is Dead Aussie Gamer, another Australian D&D streamer and whatnot. Keep an eye on my short rests. I'm sure he'll be joining me eventually. When I've run out of other people and I have to turn to my friends, maybe I'll get him on at some point.
But yeah, we're in the same city, so that really helps.
So you somebody in the chat, when you were talking about what the sort of on ramp to it, somebody said, "Oh, don't forget Humblewood." You did some Humblewood in your early days.
Yeah, I did 3 seasons of a Humblewood campaign as a player as well. And people fell in love with the character I was playing, Jude Littlefoot. And Jude was a complicated little Gerbine paladin who was very cute but incredibly damaged mentally, and 7 intelligence.
Nice.
So just did not understand that she had been through a lot of trauma without realizing it. Right. And just subtle little hints of Jude trauma.
Little mouse fuck, was it?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
Yeah, so people who don't know the Humblewood, it's like you're all playing cute little forest critter-y kind of people, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Dag is slang for poo on a sheep's bum. Yeah, I know. I'm aware, Batmurp. I've teased him about this
Is it
in the
really?
past as well. Yeah, a dag. A dag is like the solid
so funny.
chunks of poop around a sheep's bum that get
I
all
did
matted
not
into
know
the wool.
that.
That's the dags of a sheep, yeah. Dag says,
Brilliant.
I am aware.
Brilliant. I did not know that.
Cool. So tell us about Winter's Tales. Now that you've started it off, we've gone through your on ramps. Yeah, up to starting Winter's Tales.
We went through my whole family background,
family history,
into how I started D&D.
I haven't got our address yet, everybody, but eventually by the end of the stream, we'll work it. So you're into. You've started Winter's Tales. What's your vision for it as you're starting? As you're starting it, you're like, I'm kicking out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I want from it.
Yeah, so my eventual goal with Winter's Tales is to be a content creation company here in Western Australia and make a variety of media with all different, so storytelling at its finest, but in all different mediums. So there'll be a bunch of different Twitch shows, YouTube series. Boy, too early in the morning.
Words are all made up.
And and then a couple of podcasts and things that we want to do as well, and maybe a talk show. Damn. So there's a bunch of stuff.
You just go down the list of like what media is there, and you're like, radio show? Could do a radio play.
I have a radio play
stage production.
D&D
stage
I've done that.
Yeah, of course. Like journalism, I suppose. I could do.
News
mime.
channel.
I could do a D&D mime on the street. I could turn it into AJ Winter's mime.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be D&D related, but that's my bread and butter.
Just storytelling related.
Storytelling.
Fantasy, world building kind of related.
Yeah, definitely.
What other RPGs have you played?
I have played Pathfinder, thanks to Dag.
Boo.
Call of Cthulhu was really fun. I did what is that one called? Done Kids on Bikes. Delta Green. Have you ever played Delta Green?
No.
Delta Green is like in the 80s. It's very Men in Black style.
Right.
Like
it's weird how a name can be like, I bet that's what it's about. Like Delta Green, if you'd have been like, what's it about? I'd have been like, it's something conspiratorial government agency thing.
Yeah. It's very, I think the mechanics are very Call of Cthulhu, but it's set in the 80s and 80s, 90s. And it's trying to like uncover creepy things. And then similar to Call of Cthulhu, you can slowly lose your mind. Or you can, Yeah.
Kind of sounds a little bit SCP as well.
Yeah.
I
did a sci-fi Starfinder game. I'm trying to think of what else I've done. There's probably more.
You done any of like the Grant Howitt one shots or anything, like the one-page RPGs or anything?
No.
Well, there's always.
It's really interesting because I've homebrewed everything that I run.
Right.
So I haven't run any campaigns or one-shots that are pre-written.
Right.
I've played in a few.
By like conscious choice. Just because you like to homebrew, so
I like to homebrew, so that's just kind of
happens.
Yeah.
Happens that way. Would you ever try it? Because I'm similar. I just like to make my own stuff up, but I am interested just out of like professional curiosity to just straight run one of the modules and just see what it's and like not make things up about it. Just be like, I'm going to run it as written and see what it's like to actually, because it's how a lot of people play D&D, and so it feels like a completely different subset of the game and the hobby, to not really know about that huge side of how people play D&D.
Yeah, it's true. I always feel bad when I say that I haven't run a module, because there's so much work that goes into all of that and all the history with D&D, and I've come along, been like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, like they release how many books every year? Wizards? They release like 4
haven't read
four
any
new
of them.
books every year or something, and like at least 2 of them in modules, and I'm like, yeah.
I have a list.
Thanks for doing all that work, but I'm just going to ignore it
I'm
straight
just
up.
doing my own thing. I have a list on my pinup board of all of the books that I would like to purchase and read. I haven't been able to.
Yeah.
haven't been able to. And then even more of a little bit of a middle finger up to the whole system is I've gone, okay, well, I'm about to do like a tabletop RPG show in a couple months, and I've homebrewed everything, so there's not even monsters from your world. Like,
oh wow.
It's been a bit of a strange one, but I want to eventually. I really do. I think that once everything that I'm currently working towards is on track, then I will go back and maybe do something similar as like run a couple of actual built ones.
So what sort of like how do you go about actioning? I want to make a production company. I want to get out on my own. Like what steps did you know to take to like these are the things I need to set up. These are the things. These are like deadlines that I need to hit by 3 months from now or whatever. Like how did you?
What are my KPIs?
Yeah, I don't know. What's how did you even? Because I'm thinking. I just kind of stumbled into this. Somebody was like, you should start streaming. And I started streaming, and then it turned out it was popular enough to sustain me. And so now I'm doing it. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I never set out to be, this is a business of mine.
Right.
Whereas you did. You were like, I want to have this as a business. And so you have like goals. And what are the steps that you even put into place to do that?
Okay. Let me have a little think. So I started with the YouTube series, my World Builder series. So I knew that I wanted to have that weekly leading up to a big flagship tabletop RPG show for the channel.
Right.
I went through all the branding and marketing. So I got all the, like my domain name, my business name registered in Australia. All the social handles under the same name, did all the branding and coloring and like fonts that I use for the business. Started building up the website, which is hopefully going to be launched at the end of the month. Business-wise, goals-wise, what I said is, okay, well, this flagship show, this D&D show that I'm building in a studio is going to be the main event thus far.
Right.
So everything I've been doing is kind of leading up to that. So I started doing... I've got a Patreon that I put assets and downloadable PDFs of things I create on the YouTube series of building my world onto. So that's a source of a little bit of income. Hopefully that gets bigger eventually. Then the YouTube and the streaming weekly. And I was very fortunate to get quite rapidly into, so I think because I did the 25-day advent calendar Twitch release, within 7 days I had already made affiliate. And then within like I think another 7 days after that, I had already made like a threshold of subscribers and income, which was incredible. As someone who had just started,
I've talked to people about this before, about how lucky I was to have the Viva la Dirt League jumping board to when I started streaming, because so many people like grind for years to get to anywhere close to partner, and I got it in 6 months because of the Viva la Dirt League community. Yeah,
definitely. And I think similar for myself, I had obviously hustled for 2 years before that on other people's channels and guest starring and making contacts and friendships with people in the community and learning how things run and what not to do and that sort of stuff. And highly recommend doing that before you just try and start a Twitch channel.
And just be like, I'm in the middle of everything, and what's my point of difference?
Business wise, I think that's currently the projection. We just started also teaming up with World Anvil, so all of our downloadable PDFs are going to be put onto our World Anvil page, and then from there it's gathering
sponsorship from Wooten Forge as well, right? Is that am I right?
Not currently. No. I run their social media.
So run their social media, right? Okay.
So they're close friends of mine.
Right. Gotcha.
So I do a lot of work with them, but they don't sponsor my channel or my World Builder series because it's not a D&D game.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, then it's building up sponsorships and partnerships with people we want to work with. So for the upcoming show, I would love to get like a dice maker involved, and different products we can show off and use, because I want to support people in the community. So we're building that on the back end, building the set, working towards that. I did 8 weeks or 8 rounds of casting for the players.
8 rounds. Oof.
Yeah.
Well, so how do you cast that? Because obviously I'm familiar with the acting process of auditioning and casting, but like, how do you know what you're looking for when you're auditioning that?
So
play a bunch of one-shots with a bunch of people and use that as an audition?
Pretty much. So I had a few people that I had worked with prior through different one-shots or through the Academy of Xandar stream that I had done. And so I brought in the first group of 6 and saw like who had good chemistry and who bounced off each other really well, who was able to improv and characterize their characters really easily and feel the story and be able to play through it without the mentality of like a home game where you take over or you do your own thing. It's like who works with the group, who has that connection.
Yeah.
And and then we locked in 4, and then we got our 5th, and then we did a few more rounds and we locked in our 6th player.
Why did you choose 6 as your magic number?
I did 4 for the Academy of Xandar, but for this upcoming show, it's very heavily role-play and character based, and so I wanted to have a few more players. So it's either going to be 5 or 6, and 6 just works for framing. Just to get that connection with the different characters and the role-play basis. 4 was a little too small.
Fair enough. And if you're not going to have as much focus on combat, the larger number of group sizes, it's not as big a problem. It's when it comes into combat that like turn starts to get really long if you've got 6 people.
Yeah, so I want to kind of do it the way that Dimension 20 do it, where it's like every game or 2 is more of a combat focused game. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, it's a different way of coming about it, really, because so many of the actual play D&D stuff is somebody who goes, oh, our group is fun, our D&D table is really funny, I'm sure people would want to watch it, and let's start making our things into something. And then there is a difference between what's fun around a table and what's fun to watch and what's fun as a production. You have to consider that when you're making that change, it is a change to being a product that you're making now.
I think there's always that huge difference of you've got a group of people streaming who are just streaming their home game or an actual show.
Yeah.
And they're very different streams, and sometimes it works to bring your friends into a stream and turn it into a stream show, like Critical Role did it. But that's not always the case,
because they're all in that industry,
they're all performers,
knowing how to be a performer and knowing what the production takes. Likewise with Viva, they were like they played it, they were like, this is going to be good for the channel, so they were immediately coming at it from a point of this is going to be a production thing. And it just happens that they are, they're all good friends from working together for ages, so it works for them. And College Humor, they were all performers. They all knew the industry of how to make a production first and came at it from a production
the first one was highly produced. Well, it still is. Every Dimension 20 show is. I think the pre-production on those shows, and it's insanity to me. The miniatures, the designs, even you'll notice, because I'm pretty sure they filmed 2 episodes at a time.
Right.
So you can notice when their like hair and makeup is the same 2 episodes back to back. So they have a makeup and hair person. Yeah. Costume changes, all of that kind of jazz. And you don't think about it because you're like, they're playing a home game. They're playing a game. They're just wearing their clothes. No. That's all chosen.
It's a huge production. And it shows, because it's amazing. They've put a lot of work into it, and they've come at it from the point of it being a production, and so it works as a production. It works to watch as an audience member. Yeah, and
with my background in film and television and theatre, I wanted to turn my passion of world building and storytelling into a live show, like a full immersive sound and lighting kind of deal.
That's
and
cool.
so I've been working really hard towards that.
Yeah,
For
I'm excited
this
to.
journey.
I'm excited for it to start. When's the what's the sort of deadlines of what you think is left to do before it's
There's a
going?
lot there's a lot to do. So we're looking at late July at the moment
Right.
for launch. We had to push back a couple of months. We were going to start in May, but we had delays on studio stuff, so we've pushed back a couple of months.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
don't release till you're ready. So just
Yeah,
the
well,
audience
that's going
will
to be
there
the thing for
when
me,
you release it.
because it is a full thing with a set and immersion. I don't want to start early. Like, if it's not ready, it's not ready.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And you and like starting something where you're like, oh, we're ready to start, but I just not ready to be finishing. But we'll finish it while we're and it's like, yeah, but now you're always going to feel like you're chasing something, like they're laying the tracks before the train. Yeah. Dag says we'll one day have that sort of big production value for our stuff, like the Critical Role budgets.
That's the goal.
We'll see.
I would love to be able to get to that point for Western Australia. We have the talent, we have the people, we have the space. I would like to do that. So that's my goal, to be a online content creation company in 5 years, 10 years time.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Let's see. Jump forward 5 years for another short rest when you're when you pop on and you're like, so
Hi.
this is how big we are. Fancy's got a good question here. It says you keep saying we. How big's your team or friends that are helping you?
So this is a trick of the trade. I talk in we's all the time, even if it's just me. Yeah. So it's because I, from the get-go of starting Winter's Tales, wanted it to be a company.
Yeah.
And every time I do branding, it's very, this is very behind the scenes, little sneak peek of the curtain. But if I say everything for 2 years going, I'm going to do this, me, it makes me the focus of this channel.
The person of AJ and the company of Winter's Tales are the same thing at that point.
Yeah.
If you go me and I and we are doing, I am doing this, then it's not. You're doing this as a business.
I do have a few people that are slowly joining the team, but I don't like to ask people to work for free whilst we're building the channel. So at the moment, it's mostly the people in the cast who have been very passionate to be part of this project, going, anything I can do, let me know. What can I volunteer my time to do? So that's been really great. And we have an amazing cinematographer that has joined on board, who does his own work and everything, freelancer as well, who wants to also be part of the channel and eventually the company. So we've been doing like film shoots and TikToks and all this stuff that we'll release once the cast reveal video comes out. So
Dag says it's smart to separate person and branding, and only weirdos will use their real name as their branding. Thanks, Dag.
I use my real name as my personal branding.
Can we just somebody mute Dag, please, for coming into my stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like you've got a lot of plans for it. I'm really excited to see where it ends up, where it goes. The campaign is intended to be a 1 to 20 D&D 5e campaign. Like, is it all the way?
Hopefully, yeah. So what's really fascinating is the players don't know who they're playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we talked about it prior to like auditions and everything, and I've made sure that all my players are comfortable, but the pitch was all the characters wake up without memories. They're all amnesiacs.
Right.
And they all wake up with an identical list of names on their person, and that's it. So when I pitched this to the players, I was like, okay, well, what we can do is I can write your backstories and your characters so that you completely wake up with no memories. Or if you have any stipulations of things you definitely want, like if you want to definitely play a spellcaster or a certain race or anything like that, or a certain gender or whatnot, then please let me know, or let's have a conversation about it. And all of them were like, no, you have full control.
Wow, okay. So
they want you to
when they sit down at the table for session 1, they could be a trans male dwarf wizard, or they could be a dragonborn. It could be a minotaur person. Wow.
Yeah.
So they wake up and the first thing they do is check themselves out and be like, what is it? What is this situation?
What am I? What color am I? Yeah.
Wow.
Am I blue?
Yeah. How many hands do I have? How many do I have tentacles?
Do I have a tail? Do I have a tail? Am I a tiefling?
Will they? Will that translate to their knowledge of the world? Will they know nothing about the world, or will they know what an elf is?
Yeah. So, in the similar sense of an amnesiac, they'll still know terminology, but it makes it really easy for the fact that I've homebrewed the entire thing.
Yeah.
They can just ask. They'd be like, "Do I know this thing?" Roll a history check.
Yeah.
Do you remember it? Here's the information about that thing.
And the story. This is like an introduction to their characters and learning the world through exposition, like putting them, because obviously you need, as a storyteller, you need that person who doesn't know so that you can exposition to them and also the audience. Is that just the tool of this, or is like the amnesiac thing like the main focus of, like, obviously without giving too much away, is that going to be like a main story thing? They're going to have to learn why they were amnesiac? They have to,
well, hopefully they do, but it gives room to play for me because this is a long form campaign. There's 6 characters, there's 6 full backstories that we could dive into. The main thing that I would assume they'd be questioning is the list that's on their persons. So
how many,
at the same
how many
time
will be on the list? Is it just 6 names? Because that would, if I woke up, I'd be like, okay, this is the 6 of us.
This is our names.
Yeah.
No, it's a very long list of names.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they also have fresh tattoos, like runic tattoos on their person as well, which they may not be able to read. So
they're level 1?
They're level 1, yeah.
Wow. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
I got so many questions. I want to play in this campaign. I've got so many questions about what I would do if I'm like, oh, how would I do that? My brain's
so at the same time as working out why they have no memory, what the list is for or relevant, or who the people on the list are, they've also potentially, like, I would want to know who I am. So there's a bunch of different like running plot lines at the same time as me knowing what the actual storyline of this is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So where will people be able to watch this?
This will be on Winter's Tales, twitch.tv/Winter's Tales, hopefully July.
And it'll be a weekly thing, bi-weekly?
Yes, so it'll be weekly, but we'll run it in seasons.
Right.
So it will probably be like 3 months at a time, and then a month off. And that month off, we'll have a guest DM in to do like a four shot.
Yeah.
Just so that cool. I have 4 weeks to prep for the next season.
That's awesome.
And all of that kind of jazz.
So what's your preparation for the inevitable problem we find with actual plays on Twitch, in that people will be turning up not having seen the last 3 seasons and not know who the characters are or the stories and things? How are you going to get around that? Are you going to do like weekly recap videos on the YouTube?
Yeah, so we've been playing around with the fun idea of doing like kind of reality TV diary entry rooms.
Oh yeah.
Post
talking heads
streaming
with the characters.
So post the show, the players will go individually into the little photography studio and film like a diary entry as their character of what they've experienced.
Nice. Okay.
In character, and then that will be published somewhere. It might be like Patreon. It might be.
Would that be like a fourth wall thing, or would that actually make sense in the world? That they would have like
it won't. I don't think it would make sense in the world. No, no.
I don't know if you were intending on giving them like a rune of whatever,
film,
a stone of recording device.
Yeah,
they're recording their thoughts onto it.
No, basically be like if they had a diary entry, physical one. Yeah, it might be if they're in
character and they're having to write down, then the guy who determines through play that he's actually a dumb barbarian. He's like, it might be done as character, as player rather than as character, because I think they'll probably want to get into their theories of stuff. Yeah. So it will be from the player's perspective, but we're also thinking about doing there's no reason it can't be both. Like it can start as the character giving the blah blah blah, and then it switches into them going, so here's what I think about what's actually happening.
but we have like audio gear and stuff like that. So we're thinking of recording like stream of consciousness thoughts of the character and then putting them over like images and animatics or something, or releasing the actual diary entries of each of the players of like what their conspiracy theories are in character. Because I know one of my players likes to write notes in character. So we're thinking about releasing them.
That's cool.
Weekly as well. So you can backtrack and there'll be recap videos and you can find out what's happened and stuff.
How did you put out the audition call for 6 players? Like, how did you start finding a pool of people to be playing with?
Once I had the first 4, I knew that it's very interesting. So a lot of white men play D&D.
What?
Yeah, weird.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me just. Does that track?
So I had a genuine plethora of white male players that I could bring on board. And so once I had 3, I was like, I'm gonna go down a different path now. I was like, I think 3 is enough. Like, I have a lot of very funny, talented friends. They just all happen to be white male and cis. So I was like, this is not the vibe that I want. Being that I'm a female DM and in the LGBT community, I was very passionate about having a bit more diversity than that. So I put out a casting call for female or non-binary players. And then got some interest out of that, and then ended up casting the other 3, which were not white men. So that helped.
Wow, sounds like discrimination to me. Discriminating against
more like
discriminating against my type. There's not enough work for me, and now you're taking it away from me.
50% of my cast.
Yeah,
is
only
white
50%. Jeez.
Yeah. So I think I've budged the line a little bit of like, okay, well we've cut you down to 50% of the table, well not the table but the cast, because I'm there. So
no, it makes
white
sense.
men are outnumbered at my table.
I was lucky that when I started playing all of my home games and things, I ended up running 2 home games very quickly when I started DMing. And just out of happenstance, it was exactly a 50-50 split between male and female identifying people. And so I never really, I never had the first-hand experience of being like, women don't play role-playing games, because literally half of my players were women. And then I think the 3rd group that I started DMing for, it was just under 50% female, but there was also a non-binary player. And then the 4th group had a non-binary player and was mostly female. And so like my personal experience as a DM has been like, it's been quite a lot of diversity in and among my players.
That's awesome too.
And diversity among races and ethnicities as well. So I've been lucky in that respect, but I do know that it's not the statistics at large.
No. And I'm the same as you. I had a similar experience because I went into...
Doug wore a wig to the audition. Couldn't convince you.
No. But Tag it potentially is going to be a guest star. So. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Because he's in the area.
Because he's there. It's just because he's there.
He's just because he's in my city.
I better get a flight to Perth.
Well, that hopefully eventually that could, if we become like an actual popular show, I could get guest stars over from different countries. But most of my streaming friends are not in my city, so Dag's kind of guaranteed himself a guest spot.
Lack of options. I've been given jobs for less.
But I had a similar experience to you. My tables have always been diverse because I'm a female DM. So when I reach out for friends to play games, it was never like I only have male friends or something.
Yeah, right.
It always had diversity at the table, and definitely people part of the LGBT community or non-binary players. So I've never experienced a lack of diversity until I started streaming, and then I was like, oh, why am I always the only female in guest streams?
Right, I see.
It's getting more. I love all my female streamers that I get to play with, like Mindari and Levuffin, and Dale was also awesome in the game
Dale
that we played the other week. So like there's more of us. There's more of us. which I love.
Starting a movement against us. We
Starting
white men
a
have got to
movement.
have to do something. We're gonna have to, we're gonna have to try and work
Take
out
your
how to
power
hold.
back.
Yeah, take that power back that we never lost. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah.
That's cool. I am aware of that as well as a cis white male. I am aware of that sort of thing whenever I'm thinking about players and guest stars and things. But for me it's always like I'm always trying to be aware of representation without tokenism. I don't want
that
to.
was a really hard thing for me during the casting process as well.
It's a really muddy line, and
Yeah.
I don't always know how to find that. Thankfully, I'm genuinely good friends with Dag, so I'm like, I don't feel like I'm using tokenism when I'm inviting him to play with me just because he's a brown guy.
Yeah.
Like, and same for the ones you just mentioned: Mendari, you, Lubofin, Sarah Moore, Satine Phoenix, and I played with Jenny D once. And like I'm friends with a lot of non-male streamers and D&D creators and stuff, so I don't feel like it's tokenism when I invite them on my play. Dreaded GM, obviously not non-white guy. So yeah, I don't feel like it's tokenism when I'm inviting those people, so that's handy, I guess. But
definitely.
I am conscious of like how it could come across if I ever didn't put thought into it and I just went, let's play with this, and this person. Yeah. And then only after the fact went, they're all cis white males.
Yeah.
It's something that we're very aware of always with Viva la Dirt League, because they've been going for like 10 years and they've all been friends for that length of time and everything. They just happened to be friends with a bunch of white males. They started a company together. They started making production
That's
videos
what happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but consciously, sometimes we find people that are very similar to ourselves culturally to form friendship groups. So it's very often than not that you look around your friendship group and you are similar looking to the people that you have chosen, which is weird. It's a weird thing that we do. But I was very conscious of that when I did casting, because I had a bunch of people audition that weren't white. And so for me, I was like, okay, this is fantastic, but I don't want to cast you just because you're not white.
Yes.
I want to cast you because you work with the team.
Yeah.
And because you work with the simpatico of the group. And that was a really hard thing to have to make choices of going, I want to represent other cultures. I want to represent other people. Is this the right player? Is this the right person for the group? Not based on anything like that, but still trying to be conscious of representing other people.
There's a somewhat catch-22 problem that emerges from that, I find, in that so I wrote D&D Logic, a small sort of comedy skit series about D&D for YouTube.
I love it, by the way. I've seen the whole thing.
Thank you very much. And when I was casting that, I was conscious of being like, let's cast diverse. I didn't put any ethnicity or race to any of the characters, especially because they're playing fantasy races anyway, so it didn't really bother me. And I saw a bunch of people for a bunch of different roles, but one of the guys who came in, I think he was maybe Samoan, Tongan perhaps, and he was performing for one of the roles, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty good, but it's like he didn't have the experience as an actor to really blow me away. And the catch-22 comes in that he's perhaps not getting the experience as an actor because he's not good enough to get the roles, but he's not getting the roles because he's not white, maybe, or because he's not experienced enough. And it's like and then the next guy came in who was a white male, and he absolutely fucking blew me away. His performance was exactly how I'd imagined it when I was writing the character. He looked right for the role and everything, and I was like, I can't not cast him because he's white. And I can't cast this guy because he's not getting the I would. So I was like, if I was in a situation where I had like minor roles and things, that's the sort of thing where I'd go, okay, maybe I'll cast this guy because I can see potential in him. But he needs the experience
build him up for the next thing. Yeah, definitely. I had a similar thing because I was casting for the sci-fi show back in university, and all of my cast descriptions never mentioned ethnicity because I wanted to find the right person. And I actually had a guy walk into one of the auditions and absolutely nail it. And he was born with dwarfism. And I never pictured this character being, having to deal with that and process that through their life. Like, they were definitely not the type of person that had been raised with any sort of diversity, and yet it matched perfectly, and so he became one of the leads. And so it's there's always that weird line, but I never go in, especially for film, I never go in with an ethnicity distinction for roles, because I think that's important.
I actually pretty much the same thing with the I had, being that I was casting a fantasy party, and I wanted every character to be a different class and a different race. So there was a Goliath and a half orc or whatever, but there was never like two elves. So everybody had a different fantasy race, and obviously in the party I had a hobbit or a halfling and a dwarf, and I don't think I had a gnome in season 1, but I intended to. So there's a lot of short races, and I said to the guys, I was like, I want to cast someone with dwarfism, somebody who doesn't otherwise get roles. Yeah. And for a start there was just so few actors, so few actors with dwarfism, and then the ones that do had the similar problem of like they obviously get so few roles that they were they just didn't do a performance that was anywhere near what I needed for the characters.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't have the time to be able to train or workshop them into being what you need. Yeah. Film casting is so hard, I find, with that. Like, but I was very fortunate with the casting of my upcoming show that I found a cast that I'm so confident in, and they're ridiculously talented. Like, I'm intimidated by how talented all my casts are, and we are really fortunate to also be a bit of a diverse cast. Still got 50% white male in there, but we do have LGBT.
I feel like if you have fewer than 50% cis white males in a gaming situation, though, it starts to feel like you are deliberately trying to go for, like, it starts to feel like it could be that you're making decisions for tokenism rather than diversity, because it's unrepresentative at that point of how much of the percentage of the population actually are white males. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you for instance had a game that was like not a single white face, then you'd be like, okay, that's a choice they've made to be like, where this is we're representing a particular community here, or a particular group of communities. Whereas if you're just going like, hey, just open diversity, we're not representing any one thing,
you'll end up with a white man.
You're going to end up with white males at the table.
Yeah. And the acting community in Perth, I find that there is a serious lack of diversity, and most of my players come from performative backgrounds as well. Yeah. So it was very easy to find the 3 white men that I do have in the game. And then I had
something that can't be said about white male, but that's hard to find.
Then I had a few more of my friends message me who wanted to be in it, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. You're a white man. I've already got 3. I can't have you.
You can't have one.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It was very strange. And then I took note of my like friendship group, and I was like, oh, I'm just collecting.
Why do I know so many white men?
Very pale-haired, funny white men. There seems to be a category.
Well, luckily for me, I'm not very funny. So you got a niche in that group. So where did you where is this I was going to call it a performance, which I suppose isn't too wrong. Where's this first session going to be? Is it going to be like in a theatre space? Or is it in a? Because you're all in person for the right.
We're building a little studio for it.
Yeah, and it's going to really purpose-built studio. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I'm currently designing the set and like putting props and stuff together. It's really exciting.
That is exciting. Oof.
Yeah.
What do you imagine as like a camera setup? What's the situation there?
So we're hoping for 3 camera setup and top down.
Right.
So similar to Dimension 20's setup.
Yeah. That side of the table,
DM,
wide.
2 sides, top down for map and or dice rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're playing around with
the
potentially eventually having a 5th camera to do like little asides.
Yeah.
But we'll see if we can.
The top down
that.
is the one thing that we're still missing is with Viva is we don't have that focus on the map. We've got a wide focus on me, one on that side of the table, one on that side, and then the I think it's the wide can push into the table if we need it.
Yeah.
If as I'm putting down a map, but we don't have a dedicated top down map thing yet. But
and do you stream them or are they filmed?
Filmed, yeah. So ours is entirely filmed, edited, green screen stuff chopped in after the fact.
That's so cool.
And then released as half-hour chunks.
See, that would actually be easier because that I could do. I could do that immediately.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff like having a stream set up and all the overlays and all the gear to be able to just like swap cameras and do live stuff.
So how's the logistics behind the streaming going to work, do you imagine? Are you going to have like techs that are just dealing with everything and changing cameras and everything and you can focus on the GMing?
Yeah, so that's the plan. We're hopefully having three techs, we'll see. Showrunner and lighting.
Yeah.
Sound, so like music, because I definitely won't be able to coordinate that whilst I'm doing the DMing, and then the actual stream. So like changing cameras and running that.
That's cool. Is there going to be? Are you intending on having interaction with the audience? Like they can put bits and subs and things to do certain things?
We're trying to work out how to achieve that
in order to make it like, why are you doing this on Twitch kind of thing.
We want the live stream aspect because we enjoy the chat being able to like interact with each other. I think is the main thing, to be able to like put up questions and polls and stuff like that. How much I'll be able to interact with Twitch chat, I don't think I'll be able to. Yeah,
that's the toss up, isn't it? Because like if you have no interaction at all, I mean, Critical Role obviously makes it work, but if you have no interaction with the chat at all, it can be like, why am I not just watching this on YouTube or something? Then why are we using an interactive service like Twitch to do this? And if you have too much interaction, then it's like, get back to the story. You're distracting yourself with the chat and the people. There's a raid come in. We'll pause everything to just acknowledge the thing and blah blah blah. It's really good for the people who've just raided, but it's not good for the flow of the story. So finding that balance is going to be interesting.
So we're trying to work out if we're going to have like little notifications pop up on the overlay of like people who raid or follow or sub, so that people are still getting like their acknowledgement. Yes. Then we will have like interactions with Twitch chat, like pre and post the actual game, as well as the idea that we'll have giveaways and things that will be relevant to the actual stream night, rather than the YouTube edit of the stream.
Will you be
at least confusing bag to
at least at first? Will you be the editor as well? You'll be after the stream. You'll be taking on the editing for putting it on the YouTube. Jeez, man, I really wish you the best for not burning out. It's taking on a lot of work.
I probably won't do it because I won't be able to do it the way Critical Role gets it out 4 days later. I think it'll be much later than that. But
I'm like 14 episodes behind on my Twitch tales.
It happens. Yeah. I've got a film shoot today, and I'm in the process of trying to move house and all this kind of jazz. And the last 2 days I've spent making a magical cloak. I have to film and edit my World Builder episode tomorrow.
You've been making, as in like you've been coming up with the stats for a magical cloak, or you've been physically making
the physical cloak. Do you want to see it?
I do. I definitely want to see it.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Oh, that's cool.
You've
been making this from scratch, or you took like a dressing gown and adapted it, or?
No, I made it from scratch.
Holy shit, that's... You just got so many different skills. When did you learn how to make stuff like that?
Like sewing?
Yeah.
I did fabrics in high school.
Right.
It was one of my classes.
Damn, some impressive stuff.
Thank you.
Somebody in the chat asked when we said you're making a studio specifically for it. what's the budget for that? Like, obviously, you don't need to out your exact financials, but where is the? Is this all self-funded?
It's high. Yeah. It's all self-funded.
Yeah.
Look,
it's all just...
eventually, I would love to get sponsorship and/or help. At the moment, though, it is all my own money.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've put enough work in that it will immediately stand out from the crowd of anything similar, and that's usually a good sign that the audience will grow from it. And
yeah, I think that was our like business plan, or my business plan, in the sense that I wanted to hit the ground running with a really good show, being a female DM, having a diverse-ish cast, having a really unique story, and everything being homebrewed and well-built, so that you can then go back to the YouTube episodes and see how the world was built step by step.
Right.
Have it already be at a point that's like, oh, this is really, like, has already been elevated. Right. And hopefully then that gets attention enough to be able to drive things like sponsors and finances further from that, to then continue to elevate the show. So
Emily says that color looks beautiful with your hair. It does. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I found that this is going to be the official Winter's Tales cloak.
Oh, yeah.
It's in branding colors, and it's actually upholstery material, so it is like incredibly soft.
Is the is the Winters thing at all just like just like wishful thinking, being that you're living in Australia? Like, is that, do you experience winters?
No.
Does it ever get cold enough to wear a cloak like that? I'm just sitting there, I'm sitting here in Auckland going, whew, man, if I wore a cloak like that, I'd melt.
I'm wearing a fluffy jumper underneath.
Do you just not feel the heat?
I do, and I hate it. So
but here I am sitting in a fluffy jumper and a cloak.
And yeah. It's actually been pretty cold this morning, and this cloak it's not too, I mean, it would get hot eventually, but it's not too bad. I keep my aircon quite low.
Smart.
I pretend I'm living in winter.
Fair enough. Yeah,
which is not financially frugal at all.
Blast the aircon. Just move to Norway or something. Then you will always be in winter.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm building my empire in a city that is very warm.
That is the opposite of people. You're hoping people will come to you because they're just yearning for winter. Like, we need something to remind us of winter. How cold does it get in winter in Perth?
Not cold at all. No? I think it barely gets into any minus.
Like, oh man.
So like low 10s.
I love that you branded your whole thing about like winters, because I love winter, I love snow, I love all this winter stuff.
Yep.
Man, it's great.
I think it tells you more about me than the like city I live in.
For sure.
You know.
What up, Matthew Perkins? How's it going? Boo heat.
Friend?
Yeah, boo heat. I'm all about. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel the heat really well. I never really feel the cold, which is good because I was born in Northern England. So if you feel the cold, you just like can't handle your life. I mean, it's always cold.
Yeah. I used to be like that,
grey.
and then I lost about 45 kilos, and now my bones get cold real quick.
So let's move on to another new topic. We're both going to be involved in Jasper's Game Day.
Yes, I'm so excited.
How did you get involved with Jasper's Game Day? Actually, we should probably talk about what it is.
Yeah, go for it. You describe what Jasper's Game Day is. I'm going to take off this very warm cloak.
Good idea, yeah. So Jasper's Game Day, in a nutshell, is a charity that focuses on mental health through gaming, through role-playing gaming and whatnot. And so they do it's actually like a week. It's called Jasper's Game Day because it started as like a day of role playing and focusing on mental health and whatnot. And it's spread out and expanded into about a week now, I think. And it's coming up in mid-May. We are both. Let's see. What am I doing for it? I'm running a game. I'm running 2 games for Jasper's Game Day. I'm running a game as part of a 12-hour marathon between Dag, Dread, and me. We're going to be starting on Dread's channel, 4-hour game there, and then taking those same characters, that same story, and whoosh, moving into my world, my homebrew world, and doing a 4-hour game there, continuing the same sort of story, and then taking those characters and moving them into another world, continuing the story into Dag's world. So it's I won't tell you anything about the details of that story yet, but I'm very excited for that. We've started talking between the three of us about the overarching campaign of the 12-hour
You
marathon.
started now, isn't it, in like 2 weeks?
We have started.
Okay.
Not now, but we have started relatively recently.
Yeah.
Man, I've prepared games like the hour before they start and still run like a full one shot. Like
yeah.
we've got plenty of time in a couple of weeks. And then I'm also running a game separately to that for Jasper's game week proper, like during the actual week, in one of the evenings of that time. Are you running a game for?
Yes, so I'm running a game on the Friday. So I think the game I'm DMing is the last game in that week, the Aussie edition, on the Friday.
Right.
There's very high pressure to be like the closer act.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing in 2 other games.
Cool.
That week as well.
Which other games?
So I am playing in Matt's Kids on Bikes game on the I want to say Wednesday.
I've heard of Kids on Bikes a few times, never played it. What is it? What's that about?
Did you watch Abrea's Kids on Brooms game on Dimension 20?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay, so it's a very different system. So your stats are your dice. I'm pretty sure. So like if you are low intel, like you're in whatever the intelligence equivalent is, I think it's like smarts. If you have low, it's a D4, and you can only roll a D4. If you have,
that makes sense. Yeah,
it's kind of like that. And then if you hit the high number, the highest number on that dice, it explodes. You get to roll it again and add the next one.
Yeah, I've heard of similar systems.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Kids on Bikes.
Cool. So you're playing in one of those?
I'm playing in one of those. I'm just looking at the schedule. And then I'm playing on. So that's on the Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday, I'm going to be in Dag's game that he's DMing for the Jasper's game week, and then I may or may not be doing another thing. Who knows?
May or may not be exciting.
Yeah.
D&D
don't know how much is released, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet.
Yeah, it's always the case, isn't it? Like, I'll just start saying this, and if they know I'm not allowed to say it, they will shut me up. D&D Comic says, have you ever been interested in telling stories incorporating struggling with mental health in the TTRPG space?
Yes, definitely. I struggled a lot with mental health.
So you've included mental health struggles as part of it, like stories around that, or
not in the tabletop RPG space as of yet.
Right.
I did a lot of short films and plays that I've written about mental health in the past.
Right.
Because I went through a lot of similar struggles myself, so it's always good to bring awareness and sort of dive into that a little bit sometimes. I think sometimes it's also dangerous. So if you're going through mental health stuff and you're making content about mental health stuff, that's a whole dark loop. But don't know about tabletop RPGs yet. I like to bring in themes into other stories. I wouldn't make it the focus, because tabletop RPGs fundamentally are about like getting together with your friends and playing and having fun. And especially since most of my stuff is streamed, I wouldn't want to trigger anyone or put anyone into a negative headspace.
Yeah.
So I would approach the topics in a tabletop RPG game, but I wouldn't make it about the game.
A focus, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's about what I would, how I would handle it as well. Like, I wouldn't shy away from including them, especially if a player clearly made it clear that that's something they wanted to explore with their characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't make it a focus of any particular arc of a campaign that you, in order to help the king, you need to bring him out of his depression. Like it's not a thing that I would include in that. Not least because I haven't suffered with that myself, so I wouldn't feel comfortable including those sorts of stories as a focus of the arc if I haven't the experience doing that, going through what it's like to live with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I get that. What do you find is your like most driven theme? Like, do you have a thing that you always seem to tap into in your games?
On like a grand scale of like the overarching campaign of the whole thing, or like mini arcs, or what sort of?
Yeah, I get. Well, as an example, I tend to definitely dive into identity, like exploring identity.
Okay.
Regardless of whatever campaign I'm doing, it's always like, oh, and now this one is fully exploring identity. But even in my Academy of Xandar game, they were teenagers in a school for bad kids on a demi-plane, and so it was all about like exploring their identity and becoming who they
how you
are.
Identify, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's in that sense. I think my themes would usually be, most commonly in my home games and things, I've used origins quite a lot, like who you are, where you came from. A lot of my players tend to have like daddy issues, and I explore that really heavily in like the NPCs and the arcs that I include for them. I give my players prophetic dreams quite a lot, and they usually revolve around like their childhood and when they were like when their daddies were doing something, and it's usually like a revealing moment. They're like, oh wow, maybe my daddy didn't leave, maybe he was killed or whatever. There's always something about that usually. And also the theme kind of related to the prophetic dreams, fate and destiny I use quite a lot. I like to think about how if there is destiny and there is fate, the stronger the destiny and fate is, the weaker the will is, the weaker the possibility of doing your own thing, like making like we don't have free will if we are destined to do things, but that's like a sliding scale. There could be like elements of things that you are destined to do, but the way that you get there is your own free will. But you're still you don't have the free will to go over here if you're destined to go over here, but you can go like this on the way. And there's a sliding scale. If you've got ultimate free will, then you've got no destiny. And so, like, as you're turning the destiny up, you're turning down the free will, and so I like to play around with that sometimes.
Yeah, I like that. That's I
especially in D&D where there is like divination spells that can tell you like this is a good idea for the future. Like augury and stuff will be like this is a good plan, this is a bad plan. So therefore there is like a higher power of gods or whatever that do know what's going to happen in the future. And if they know what's going to happen in the future, then your players don't fully have free will, or the characters don't fully have free will and stuff. So I tend to enjoy those themes.
Dabble into that. Yeah, I'm similar. I had a character with a the word you just used, and I've totally forgotten it.
The daddy issues.
that too. Is it a D&D campaign if it doesn't have daddy issues?
Exactly right.
Aren't we just all exploring our own trauma through roleplay? But also the future, like predicting the future. I had a character who had a book that did that, and it was very loose and dreamy and interpretive, but it was always playing with the idea that things are going to happen that are predestined and stuff. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. It's always very fun. Morality is another one that I love to dig into.
Yeah, I love to give my players situations moral where they're conundrums. Like, are we doing the right thing here? Is this should we kill that guy or not? And I've given, and because I love to give that, I ended up giving the Viva guys quite a lot of those. But because their primary focus is comedy, they'll always just do the immoral thing, to the point where I've said in streams and stuff now that they are all of evil alignment because of them constantly doing this immoral thing. And then I kind of mentioned this to them recently, and they've actually started thinking about like, oh, is that the characters that we want to be playing though? And so they in the most recent table session that's not come out yet, but soon it'll be out in the next few weeks, I'm sure. Greg's character Alan started making like serious changes for his character based on like in-game roleplay around, are we the bad guys?
And, I love that.
And I was like, yes, finally we're starting to touch on those questions of like, let's not maybe just follow the lols just for the lols. Let's think about, we've been 100 episodes into this campaign now. Let's maybe start thinking about character development, guys.
the subtle hints you have to do as a DM sometimes. Yeah. Like, is this the story you want to be telling?
Yeah.
Because it is a collaborative story, so if your players are just focused on doing the most ridiculous thing, then it's not going to be a story-based thing. It's fascinating. I love moral conundrums.
I had a fantastic opportunity a little while back with one of my home games where they were clearing out a hag's house, and they found a bunch of paintings that they realized were trapped humanoids. And so they had to smash the paintings to let the people out that the hag had trapped, and they got one of this I can't remember if she was I think she was full-blooded orc, and they smashed it open and she came out and she's like, and they were like, what were you doing in the hag's house? What was the situation? Are you good? And she's like, oh, we were just on a raid killing elves and stuff, and then this hag captured us. And they were like, oh, okay. So one of them just straight up attacked her. But the half orc in the group was like, whoa, this is orc culture to do that. Is that okay? And they had this whole thing where they were like, and the half orc in the group was like, I'm not cool with you just attacking her just for the fact that she was doing what orcs do. And they in character they had this huge discussion about like the morality of that and things. And I like to give my players moral questions of that.
Yeah, like grey areas.
Yeah.
And make them question their choices.
Yeah.
This is why we put me in chaotic evil in the alignment the other day.
Yeah.
For those of you, if you were not there, Rob's birthday stream, was that only a week ago? My lord. Last weekend. We had nine people in the Zoom call at one point, and so we decided to put us all in alignment, and guess who got the chaotic evil slot?
Guess who bloody vouched for the guess who put herself in the chaotic evil alignment?
Coincidentally ended up in chaotic evil.
I've just realised I've been missing some questions from people, so I want to ask as well. Don't want to be ignoring people entirely. Sven the Wise asked, I've been looking and working. I understand you have Homebrew. Kudos to you. My question is, did you create your own religions and pantheons?
I did, yes.
I would be surprised if you'd created your own pillars, but you hadn't created your own pantheons.
Yes. So
pillars
everything...
and pillars. What was the other one that really tickled me when I watched your Homebrew videos? It was clothing. Clothing. Fashion. The fashion that they wear in the city or whatever. And then the whether it's Doric or Ionic or whatever columns, and you're like, well, pillars. The pillar design is this. Like, that is someone who's deep into the world building.
I get a bit intense in it. I just recently released the episode on moon cycles, and nice. So I have the little moon chart that I made in order to track the 3 moons. Yes.
I made that easy for myself by just I went mathematical, and like all of my gods, because I'm a mathematical, logical, everything needs to be in boxes kind of brain. I was like, my gods are going to be that as well. And so when they created the world, they set the moon into an exact 32-day cycle. And I was like, there we go. There's one moon, 32 days. It's exactly 4 8-day weeks. They like things being like even numbers and things, so that it's always divisible. And
yeah, I did something similar. I was like, well, I wanted to come up with how long the weeks are and how long the days were, but then I made it logical that the mortals would have observed the tracking of the moon to then like calculate the months and years.
Right,
so like the one of the moons goes around Aelwyn every 45 days, so that is their like month. And then the biggest moon, it takes 405 days. Which is 9
months.
9 months.
Yeah.
So it's 9 months a year, 45 days a month.
So does that mean that
5 weeks a month, 9 days?
So does that mean when a human is 20 years old, they've lived the equivalent of like a 25-year-old real world human?
Yeah.
But they still develop. They're just 20.
Yeah, because it's a different world. It's
a different world. They just develop slower. That's fine.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So yes, I have created a whole pantheon, all the gods. I have homebrew races, homebrew monsters, everything.
Here's a question for you regarding the pantheons, because I've struggled with this as well when it comes to homebrewing. Do you have one pantheon of gods that they are the definitive gods that exist, and then all of the different races just refer to those gods by their own names, or do each of the races have their own gods?
No, so the see, this is very fascinating. So the pantheon is the legitimate pantheon.
Yeah.
But if there is another race that believes in something different, then they would believe in something different.
Yes.
So the pantheon I've created is the actual one that exists in the magical veil.
Yeah.
And then anything from there is like cultural. So like
so
races might have different
people,
names for them, or have a completely separate belief.
Or they might have just like invented a god that doesn't actually exist and they worship them all the same.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you've come up with those sorts of things of like these are the Elvish names for these gods, and these are the
not yet,
whatever races, right?
Not yet.
That's something I haven't done with mine yet. I've come up with, in a similar way to you, I've come up with the pantheon that exists. These are the gods.
Yeah.
And then I've basically said each one is each. I'm not going to come up with a different pantheon for the dwarves and the elves and the hobbits.
Yeah. No, that's.
I'm just going to basically this is the one that exists. These are the actual gods that existed and created the world. And the god
I think it's too hard to do it a different way. It's too much, and I already have 68 gods.
68 gods, damn.
Yeah.
I came up earlier that there was like magical number was 4 in my world, again for like being that it's divisible by 2 twice, and 8 is also a magic number for the same reasons and stuff. So there's 8 different domains, and within those domains there's 4 different greater gods, and then there can be lesser gods underneath those, but there's only 32 main gods.
Yeah.
And it coincides with the 32 days of the month and stuff like that. So I've used like the 4. The number 4 is like throughout everything.
So mine has different numbers, but the number that is crucial for the mortals in Aowen is 9.
Right.
Because I like that it's divisible by 3.
By 3, yeah.
And then all of the dates and all of the things that I've done is divisible by 3.
Yeah, I noticed that when you said the 45 and then 405, I went quickly. I was like, well, that's 9 months, and 45 was divisible by 9.
Yeah, so they have 9-day weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I went with 8-day weeks in mine because I was like, I don't want it to be too dissimilar that I can't. Because I based my
4 is your magic number, so it's just 2 of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine.
That's why I went with it. But I was like, when I was working out the days of the calendar and how many months of the year and all of this stuff, I was like, how's it going to work? Because I'd set, in order to avoid problems with inconsistencies with my world building later on. When I haven't thought about something and somebody goes, but if you've said this and you've said that, which would imply that this, and I'm like, damn it, didn't want that. So to avoid that, I just set everything, my home world, I basically based it on the real world, the Earth, and all of my continents are basically Europe, Australia, and all of these things. I just kind of shifted them around a bit, so that I can go, if I'm ever in doubt about what the weather would be at like in whatever month it is in my game, then I just need to think, well, they're currently in the equivalent of Fantasy Britain, and it's mid-spring, therefore it's going to be this kind of weather. And it helps me to like world build because I'm like, I've got an idea of what it's based on.
I'm thinking about doing up a full calendar.
Right.
Because of the plot line, I need to like kind of keep track.
Keep a track of the days.
So I'll be like, okay, now it's this date, and that means this weather. And
because like full moons mean such a great deal in D&D, or they can. I was like, I need to know when the full moons are whenever they're coming up. So because it's going to come up from time to time.
3 moons.
So that's why I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna because I thought about having 2, and I was like, I'm just gonna have 1 moon. It's gonna be on a cycle that's exactly 32 days, exactly 1 month. So then the new moon is the new month. So every month starts with the new moon. 16 days later it's a full moon. 16 days later it's a new month. And so I was like, that way I can always just keep a track. As long as I know what date it is in game, I know what the moon is. Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
But you were like, let's do 3 moons because 3 is the magic number, and they all move at different rates and different speeds. Another reason I was like, can't do 2 moons was I was like, well, then my brain would be like, well, how would the gravitational attraction of those 2 moons be with the tides? And I was like, I can't put that question for myself.
Haven't got into that yet, but I have worked out that like occasionally the moons will actually cross in front of the sun.
Right. Yeah.
So like the biggest moon, which is the 405 days, because it takes 405 days. It crosses in front of the sun for a good week, which is now the end of the calendar year in Aelwyn, which is the week of night. So it becomes like a cultural thing.
So does the planet? Are you on a planet or a plane?
I'm on a I'm on a continent that I'm assuming is on a round world.
Right. And is that round world, is it heliocentric? Are you going around the sun?
Yes.
But your year is not defined by going around the sun. Your year is
Nope.
defined about the... Okay.
Yeah, which I think, like, in all honesty, to make it easier for myself, will also be the same as the solar year.
we'll just assume.
Because I'm not going to get into the solar year on top of that.
that.
So I think the biggest moon is going to take 405 days, which is the same as the planet around the sun.
So it sounds like the little moon, the medium moon's just got the shaft, because you've gone little moon's 45 days. The big one is the what is the medium moon?
So the 45 days is the middle moon.
Okay.
The smallest moon is actually stuck with the gravitational pull of the planet.
Okay.
So it stays directly above the continent the entire time.
Geostationary orbit.
Yeah, they call it the dead moon. So it moves with the continent. So it's always in the center of the sky.
Oh, cool. I like that.
Yeah. It also means during the winter months at midday, it always crosses the sun.
Right, yeah.
So you have a dark hour.
Midday during winter is...
During winter.
That's
midday.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And do all three of them ever line up? Is there like some sort of massive event when the three of them... Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Man, there's a lot of stuff. So when you start, obviously you can follow your process on the on your YouTube channel through your homebrewing. Do you always start the way you have on that channel of like you start with the continent, you work inwards?
Yes. So I think in past things I've always done, I've started with a map or an idea, then built the map, and then fleshed out like logically where would the rivers be, where would the cities be, where would the like crops be grown, and then go from there and flesh everything out further. So it's like it's zooming in and then zooming out again and being like, okay, done with that city, zoom in here.
Yes. Yes, right, yeah. We work the same way in that sense. I always start with the continent size or the island, whatever I'm doing. I try and put a scale to it. That's something that I usually neglect. It's where my sort of...
Oh my god, that's my biggest downfall.
Yeah, because you go, oh, this is a beautiful map. Wait a minute. By the scale I've given it, these cities are like 7 days apart, or they're 7 hours apart, or whatever, and you're like, okay, but that's not what I intended for them to be. And when I was making them, I thought they'd be like you'd have to walk a day to get between them, but in actuality, they're like you could throw a stone between them because of the scale of my island.
Of the map of the like mountains or something. Yeah, I've recently come into that struggle, but I've worked it out, so that's good.
That's good.
Full.
Yeah, I start with that, and then I start with the geology of it, like have we got shifting plates or whatever, and where the mountain ranges are because of that. Is there volcanic whatever? What's happened in the history? Is there like a fallen titan that's made a mountain range or whatever? And then once I've got my mountains, that dictates the rivers. Once you've got your rivers, that dictates your forests and swamps, and then from there you've dictated where the abundant life is, and that's usually followed by where civilizations end up going. Yeah. So it's pretty easy to everything to fall into place and avoid future inconsistencies of being like, I thought the river was flowing down at this point, and it's flowing down at that point as well. So where's the river flowing to? It's flowing from that mountain range into that mountain range.
The fascinating thing is going from that to then having to justify everything, because I think the really cool thing is it's fantasy. Yeah. At some point you can be like, it does this because magic. So magic. Like when I was doing a lot of my things, I didn't lock into needing to know everything, because I was fully aware that I could be, the continent is quite magical in general, and I could just say, oh, you know, this is due to God's blood spilling on the plain or something.
It's due to reasons that you don't know about yet. That's one of my favorite things as a dungeon master. Somebody pointing out something that seems inconsistent, and you go, yes, why indeed? And you're like, in your head, you're going, God, I need to come up with a reason for that then. Need to come up with a reason for that.
Note to self.
But now I've made it important. They're going to have to do some research
and
in character.
And you put a question mark in about that? Yeah, I've done that accidentally, at the top of, people got obsessed with it.
At the top of my notes for any particular campaign I'm running is usually a section of like things to fix before next time, or things to flesh out, or things that I've said and I've been like, damn, I mentioned that there was a guy over here that could help them. I need to flesh that guy out now.
Unfortunately. And
Yeah.
I, especially if I get off track, I'm very good at improvising, but then it means that I have to go back and flesh out everything
Yeah.
that I've made up on the spot.
Yeah, whenever I'm coming up with a new name, I'm just like, better write that name down because I've said it now,
Yeah,
and you never know
it's
which
going to be
names they're going to
relevant.
actually latch onto and make them relevant.
Yeah. And then in terms of the YouTube series, because that's kind of how I world build in general. But I had a full video plan. So I have like a video schedule that I did up with over 50 episodes in order of like what would logically come after that. So like I
Right.
do the geology, and then I do
Yeah.
the where the main cities are,
Uh-huh.
and then I do this and that. So I had the full list, which then helped me world build because it meant week to week I could work on something new.
Right.
And because I interact with my Discord chat and I send them like prompts or ideas, or hey, I'm working on this, anyone got an idea of what this might be like? Same with the world building streams I do on Tuesday nights. The chat gets to be a part of like building this world, which
Yeah.
means that like their suggestions or prompts sometimes end up being part of the YouTube videos as well. So
Awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
I've thought about doing a similar thing because when I was starting out doing D&D as a career, I was like, how am I going to make this viable? I'm going to need to do this and YouTube and Twitch and I was like, oh, I'll do like an actual play thing, and we'll like create a world together with the YouTube, and it's basically exactly what you're doing. And I had this idea of like, I'll do this and I'll do this, but then if I did that now with Twitch, I would just get so distracted. If I tried to do a world building stream, I know that I wouldn't
Yeah.
get anything done, even less so than usual, because I'd be like we'd end up getting distracted with talking about something. I'd get into the minutiae of something that I'm not meant to be focused on right now, and I'd flesh out one particular guy. I'd know how many freckles he's got and stuff, but I wouldn't know anything about the guild that he works for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I could ask you about this sort of stuff all day because I've got all sorts of world building questions. One last thing I'll ask you about, and then I'll ask a couple more questions that people have been putting in the chat.
No worries.
Back on the religion topic,
Yes.
when you fleshed out all of your gods, did you give them all like a symbol, alternate names, a holy day of the week, like what, or a holy day of the year or whatever? Like,
Not
what level
yet.
did you flesh them all out to, or did you just say this is the god of agriculture and I'll deal with him later?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that. But I fleshed out a few of them. So my pantheon has 5 different sections to it, like the points of a pentagram. And those are the families within the pantheon.
Right.
I have different groupings. So there's like the truths, which are things that are undeniable, like death and love and stuff
Right.
like that. Then there's the orders, that are things that are orderly, like beginnings and endings,
Right.
or
Seasons, cycles.
like tides and cycles and stuff like that. Anyway, I won't get into details. I started fleshing out ones in there that are quite important. So they each have like a little bit of a paragraph of who they are, who they're related to, if they've got someone else in the pantheon that they've like spawned, or if there's connections, and then kind of left it at that for now. And then I'll dive back into the gods soon enough to flesh out like other things.
I think I did a similar thing where I was just like, I need a god of death, so I'll put a name in, and then when I need him, I'll flesh him out. And then later on, I went back and like gave each of them like a symbol. But gods have many symbols, so I was like, I'll just use that's the primary symbol that they've. But then if you go into World Anvil or something, and it gives you all those amazing prompts, and I'm like, it's kind of daunting that I'm like, oh man, do I have to come up with a holy day for each of them, and I have to come up with what the cultists call them, and what is a practice when the cultists greet other people that follow this god, and
so what I did for that is, because the pantheon just exists, and because this continent is quite old, people know of that, and the culture of the gods is quite relevant to the mortals.
Right.
So there would only be the symbols of people that specifically worship that thing and have made like a symbol for it. So the River City, they all have moon priestesses because they believe wholeheartedly in the 3 moon gods based on the 3 moons.
Right.
So their symbol is like 3 moons in a row.
Right.
And similar for like Crestfell has a sun-ish symbol because they believe the gods shine down on them. But it's not the symbol of each god, it's just the symbol of what the mortals have created for the gods.
Gotcha,
if that makes sense. So it only applies to the ones that are have like a following or a specific religion, and then otherwise it would be the 5-pointed star of like, you believe in all the families.
I believe in the pantheon. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because the thing I sort of struggled with that was like, in real world religions, there's so much diversity because there's not like direct intervention from the gods to be like, let's unify this is my symbol. Whereas in D&D there is like direct like clerics can just straight up talk to their gods at high enough levels and stuff. So when I was creating it, I was like, the gods would have said, this is how I want to be depicted and this is how the symbol is, and like, so I needed like a unifying thing of like, everybody, no matter what continent you're on or whatever race you're on, would refer to this god by this name or this symbol or whatever. But it meant that I couldn't hand wave as much. I couldn't be like, it's probably because it's a different sect of this religion.
Yep. I get that. I just basically said to myself, I was like, the gods are now away from the mortals. They like separated themselves. So it just comes down to what the mortals have created rather than the gods at this point.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Whenever you can hand wave any inconsistencies away, it's perfect. You can just be like, oh well, it's a map. It's a map in the game. So the distances are probably messed up because whoever drew the map in the game,
the cartographer was just really bad.
He didn't understand the map scale. All right, we're almost out of time, unfortunately, so I'll just quickly fire around last few questions from the audience. Creative Garden asked, a number of people I follow, Rob included, seem to get a number of thirst comments in their chat streams, despite their talk of their partners. Do you find that behaviour is more prevalent for you as a woman streamer and or someone without a partner? I think I remember you saying you were single. Sorry if I misremembered.
No, that's correct. I don't get that, or haven't got that.
Oh,
and
that's
that
good.
is because, Now, this is because I specifically go into this most streams that I'm in or most streams that I'm hosting. I want to be able to talk about sex and the fact that I'm single and any of those topics without being automatically accepting that harassment is going to be a thing. And I want to eradicate that from the streaming community for people like that. So I have built a community that entirely supports my efforts in that. So if someone were to come in and start being, thirst trappy with me or trying to like say some things about myself, my chat would immediately be on it.
Right.
Here's the other thing. I don't know if that happens to females, the thirst trap thing. And the reason that is because, and it's a weird conundrum that I've recently realized, you are now able to sexually, not harass, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're allowed to hit on men aggressively in streams because they kind of accept it. Like, if some guy comes into your stream or someone comes into your stream and is like, oh, Rob's so attractive or blah, 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 whatever, you'll be like, oh, thanks.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, like, guys don't tend to, I mean, attractive guys probably do, but guys don't tend to get the constant everyday harassment of like wolf whistling, catcalling and stuff, and we don't so when somebody does say that we're attractive, it's more of a compliment. We're like, oh, sweet, thanks.
And fella Gund, I think, objectifies the word. You're able in society to objectify men without being told off for it, and I hate this because I've spoken to a lot of my male friends of like, that's actually not acceptable for you to be like totally cool with what this is happening. But I find that it happens a lot. Like, we culturally are allowing ourselves to objectify men, whereas like the moment we objectify a woman, there's uproar, which is a good thing. But like on the other side of things, it's like there's definitely times where women are totally fine with fully objectifying a man. And we do that to ourselves. Like, a lot of the like male friends that I have, they all objectify each other. And it would just kind of be normal and culturally acceptable. So I think that's more of it. That's more of like, if someone comes into a male streamer's channel, they kind of feel like it's fine to objectify this person. Whereas if they come into my stream, they'll be like, oh, if I say this, will I be like,
right, yeah.
Is this damaging? Am I like causing someone upset or something? I think it's more conscious that people think of that when they think of female. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I explaining myself correctly?
No, you are. I'm just trying
Okay.
to. I'm picturing it and trying to see if that rings true for my experiences. Like, I think I would personally definitely feel more comfortable not necessarily objectifying, but complimenting the appearance of my male friends on stream than any of my female streamer friends.
Yeah.
Because of the risk of me feeling coming across like I was objectifying.
Yeah, I think that's entirely it. And I found that a lot of like the male streamers, they'll like propose to each other or like say they love each other, which is awesome. I love this like non-toxic.
In Thomas's example, just tell everybody nice dick, bro. Every time Thomas turns up in a stream, nice dick, bro.
Yeah, or like careful cantrip, DM Dave. It hits on every male streamer I've seen, and and that's fine, and it's like obviously consensual as well, because these people aren't. I make sure that it's consensual, but that's kind of okay. Whereas if DM Dave came onto my stream and was like, oh, like I want to marry you, AJ, that would be people would be up in arms.
Like, what the fuck?
What you're engaged, Dave? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. So I've built a community that kind of stops that from happening. And if anyone comes in to harass me, they get kicked out immediately. So, yeah.
Well, there you go, creative. Marie asks, you were saying about different names from different races for your gods. Do you have different accounts of them too, as in how people perceive them and how they actually are? So like the different peoples perceive, oh, this is a good god and very giving and loving, and then another culture might see the same god as being like unforgiving and destructive.
I'm sure that is the case. I haven't gotten into that. I haven't gotten into that yet. I did, when I made the gods, however, made sure that none of them have alignment. And yes, Mindari, I will marry you. So that's so funny. But with my gods, I made sure that it is all gray area. So there's like a god that's the festering hunger, a god that just needs to consume. It's one of the primals. It's a primal need. So the god just needs to consume everything, but most people might interpret that as evil, whereas I've said all gods don't have alignments. They are their own complex beings. They aren't good nor evil.
Right.
But I guess there would be interpretations of the mortals, I guess. So I need to get into that.
You need to do some of that as well.
Oh.
Creative Garden, my question part 2 is that something that could, should, or would give someone pause when thinking about getting into streaming? Like how to cope?
Totally. I say this, so I blatantly talk openly about the fact that I'm single, which is apparently a no-no for females in the streaming space. And I openly talk about like my sexuality and not necessarily in detail experiences, but I don't shy away from the topic. Because I want to be able to normalize it. However, I do understand that by doing that, I am opening myself up to the possibility of harassment and like trouble.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend openly doing that to other people, because I would be worried that you would be getting some backlash. But I'm happy to take that backlash so that hopefully we can start normalizing it. In terms of being a female streamer or someone who can be objectified non-consensually, that can be tricky. And I think it's about creating a full community and support network that can help you, like having mods, having a platform of people that know what your values are and can like call out someone if they disagree with that or misbehave in your stream.
Cool, good answer.
And
last question, New York GM says some DMs are player driven, some are story driven, some are combat driven. I'm NPC heavy. What initially drives your story at the table? How does that change, if at all, over the length of the campaign?
Roleplay.
Roleplay is your primary drive.
I am not a combat DM usually, but I'm currently in combat training. So I'm trying to teach myself and learn from others how to do combat better, because it's not my go-to. Neither is mechanics.
Right.
So rules, this is why I was in the chaotic section, rules kind of go out the window for me if it leads to good storytelling and good experience.
Right.
And the reason role play is so heavy is because I have an acting background, and most of the players that I usually work with are performative based. So like getting fully into character and having scenes where you cry, or like moments of joy, those sorts of things, dialogue heavy, like interrogations of NPCs, that kind of stuff is so fun to me. That like nitty gritty stuff. The rolling just helps with that, to like build the story and tell it together, which is really awesome.
Yeah, in a similar fashion, I would say I'm story driven. As you experienced in my heist game, I can't really come up with a story until everybody's given me their characters. I need to know who your characters are so that I can piece together where the story's going to be. Yeah. Like, because you don't want to hear the story of, I don't know, Hunger Games if Katniss Everdeen is not the particular character. If you've got a different if Super Mario was the main character, it'd be a different story. if Luke Skywalker was the main character, it'd be a different story. So like I think about the character first, and then I go, the story's going to be around this character and their exploration of whatever they've given me in the backstory, or whatever they've not given me sometimes. If they've just been like, I'm an amnesiac, I don't know, I'd be like, all right, sweet, that's a choice you've made, and that's still just as useful for me. But then I come up with the story. I think about like where the end game is. If I think it's going to be a 20 level campaign or a 4-hour one shot, regardless, I look at the end and I go, what's going to be the end bad guy, or the end reveal, or the end whatever, and I kind of work backwards and put in. I come up with scenes or whatever.
Yeah,
and then along the way, I just go, all right, room to play.
Yeah.
This is taking 4 times longer than I thought, because they've been real-time acting around a campfire for the 4-hour game today was them 4 hours in-game. Sometimes less than real-time. Some of my home games have been like, they've spent an entire day talking about a short rest. Yeah. An entire session, talking about what happened during a short rest. And I'm like, this short rest was half hour. So we spent 4 hours talking about what happened during a half-hour thing. Less than real-time.
For my Academy of Xandar, we did 30 episodes for the first and second season in total, and the timeline of that was three weeks. 3 weeks. That took months, but the actual in-game story was 3 weeks of time, which was insane.
I've had stints of Twitch Tales, the interactive game that I run on Twitch every weekend, where several weeks in a row, several sessions have been the same day. And people are like, man, there's a lot of stuff happened today. we really need to have a long rest. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It can get quite insane, I think, the real-time play. But I'm similar. I'm very story-driven, plot. And I found that I love mysteries. I love weaving mysteries, even if it's not the actual genre. There's always something in there. Yeah, there's always a mystery.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're all out of time, and you've got lots of things to do. I got lots of things to do, so we'll leave it there. But I could. There's obvious that we could talk for hours more. So if you guys are over from my campaign and you're my community, if you guys are from my community and have liked what you've heard today and and want to look out for this upcoming campaign, which is going to be amazing, where can they find you in all of the places?
You can find me at Winter's Tales Co. on all social media, or you can find me on Twitch or YouTube at Winter's Tales. So like whatever the first bit is / Winter's Tales, I will be there.
It's just that first bit and then the suffix.
Bit and then the that. But I do streaming every Tuesday night on Winter's Tales. 8 p.m. AWST. We do live world building with the community, and then I release a world building episode every Sunday or Monday on YouTube.
Very exciting.
I'm building this world one step at a time.
Yeah, and you can see this world as it's being built. You can go and watch that world building episodes on YouTube and get caught up before the campaign begins.
Before the campaign, yeah.
Yeah, very excited. And if you instead are over here right now from AJ's community, I'm Robert Hartley GM. I'm a full-time Dungeon Master for a comedy group called Viva La Dirt League on YouTube, and I'm a Dungeon Master in my own right. As I mentioned earlier, I wrote D&D Logic. I just do D&D stuff every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. Here on Twitch, on YouTube, everywhere, again, just by searching the name, because We're good with marketing, and we know how to just do the first bit and then the end bit is this bit.
And now just D&D and Wizards of the Coast need to learn your name.
Yeah, eventually. We'll see. It's a big ask. They're slowly getting there, one name at a time. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll head off to a raid. Have you got anybody that you'd like to raid? Given that you're my guest, I'll give you that honour of suggesting the raid. Otherwise, I got people on.
Oh, so I interviewed Catchy Cantrips a couple of weeks back. They're doing a D&D campaign. They've only got 5 viewers, so we could pop in and actually like surprise them. They'd love that.
Blow their minds. Catchy Cantrips, just as it sounds. No underscores or anything.
Nope.
Excellent. Well, stick around for the raid, everybody. Thank you very much for being here to hear us chat and to contribute to the chat with your questions and things. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Twitch Tales, if you want to stick around. Otherwise, in 2 weeks, I'll be interviewing another guest on Short Rest. I believe it's going to be That Grey Gentleman, a.k.a. Patrick. So, so stick around. Make sure you drop a follow. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Ciao.
Wait. Before you go, hit the subscribe button, please. It costs you nothing to do, but it helps YouTube to know that I'm awesome. And everybody should know that I'm awesome. Thank you.